we're going to get to the college football power poll, where we rank the 12 FBS teams in the Lone Star State. And so we are going to roll through, go 12 to 1. We will start at number 12.
Always the hardest.
The Rice Owls.
Not really.
I watched the entirety of Rice versus Florida Atlantic.
And that is 3 hours you won't get back.
I wrote about this on TexasFootball.com.
Mm-hmm.
Rice has some interesting young offensive pieces. I really like Austin Walter. I think that a couple of their wide receivers have a lot of talent. But that's pretty much where the positives end. Also, I didn't think Tyler Stelling was bad. He wasn't good, but he wasn't bad.
That's kind of been his season. I don't feel like he's cost them many games, but I also don't think he's shown the capability to carry them.
I am saying this as somebody who watched no fewer than 3 North Texas games last year.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the worst college football teams I've ever seen.
It's pretty bad.
They're awful.
Yeah, they don't offer much.
They are real. They're just so bad. And it starts, to me, it's 2 things. One, the offensive line is hot, stinking garbage. And I know that they've dealt with some of the injuries
some
up front.
tough injuries for sure.
But this offensive line is horrendous.
Yeah.
Tyler Stelling is running for his life,
Yeah.
and they can't get anything going on the ground. And I understand that maybe they're still dealing with a little bit of the stomach bug issue that would rip through the team.
Bad timing on that one, by the way.
But the offensive line is horrifying.
Yeah.
It's really bad. And then there's the defense. The defense, Florida Atlantic entered this game ranked 119th in total offense.
Bad.
This is a bad Florida Atlantic offense.
Yeah.
Really bad. And they ring up 657 yards against Rice. They very nearly doubled their season average.
Pretty bad.
And it wasn't just like, one guy going off. Everyone had a big game. They gave up 252 yards to a freshman running back. They let Jeff Driscoll's brother throw for 317 yards.
Hey,
they let the non-dairy substitute version of Jeff Driscoll, a failed Florida quarterback, torch him. This defense is an abomination.
Yeah.
It's horrifying. And Florida Atlantic is an actual trash football team.
Yeah.
They are actual trash.
Yeah.
UTEP might beat them by 50 this week.
Yeah, maybe. UTEP could use it.
And this was at home. I tweeted it, and it pains me to say this because I really love David Bailiff.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of loss that gets you fired.
Right.
That's a Portland State.
This is the kind of season that gets you fired. It's going to be tough.
It was a horrifying display by Rice. They're one of the worst college football teams I've ever seen.
They're pretty bad.
And what's funny is that 2 weeks ago I covered A&M in Alabama, and so I got to see one of the best college football teams I've ever seen in Alabama.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
And on the other end of it is Rice.
Yeah.
And Rice is so truly woeful. It is almost beyond belief.
Right.
That's my thoughts. Number 11, Texas State. Boy, they didn't show up.
No.
And I watched this game too.
Ugh.
I had dual screens going with Appalachian State and Texas State and Florida Atlantic and Rice. So I was, and I had a TV. I had the TV on the on I guess it was Baylor at that point.
Yeah.
We'll get to them in a moment.
Yeah.
Look, the Texas State's just not very good. They're 2-6 right now. They're 0-4 in conference. And part of me is like, okay, Appalachian State's a really good defense. They're actually like a legit good defense.
Yeah, absolutely. No question.
Like in an era where everybody throws the ball and everybody scores a million points, Appalachian State's actually a pretty good defense.
Not a team Texas State needed to run into right now.
No.
No.
This all comes back to their inability to run the ball.
Yeah, they just can't.
They can't run the ball, and so they're asking Tyler Jones to do everything. And Tyler Jones is a fine quarterback, but he cannot do it alone.
Right.
And they run for 14 yards on 28 carries, and 10 of those yards were on one Tyler Jones scramble. The defense also didn't do its part. I mean, their quarterback Taylor Lamb threw for 4 touchdowns. They ran for 303 yards. The defense was bad, but we knew the defense was just undermanned. The offense, just if they don't run the ball, they don't win, plain and simple.
Right.
And that's just the bottom line of it. They have to run the ball, and they can't right now. Texas State's just not a very good team. We knew, and again, it's tough because we didn't have these great expectations for them.
How could you?
I think if they win one more game and they finish 3-9, you go, all right, it's a better product. They just need to move forward and get things clicking. Yeah. It's just disappointing. I don't think I think they're right at where we thought they'd be. But the problem is that when they beat Ohio in the opener, I think we all kind of got our hopes up. Like, oh my gosh, maybe this is the year. Number 10, UTEP. What really is there to say? They beat Florida. They beat Houston Baptist like they should. This doesn't change any of my thoughts about UTEP.
Aaron Jones did Aaron Jones things.
Aaron Jones, 14 carries, 228 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's still amazing. I love him. Yeah. Kevin Dove, the El Campo running back, and Q Wadley. They both get into the game. Yeah. They both carry the ball they combine for about 90 yards. Fun to see. Ryan Metz throws for 3 touchdowns. If there's a concern, the concern is that. I don't really know. They didn't force any turnovers.
It's like
but what do you want from them? This game was 28-3 at halftime.
As I said in my recap on our website, why rain on the parade? It may be the only one they have left.
It's just hey, be happy for them. Good job, UTEP. Yeah. Great win. Took care of business. 42-10 over Houston Baptist. That's what you should do. Good job. Trust me. There are so many teams this week that didn't do what they were supposed to that we shouldn't rain on somebody who did what they're supposed to. They played not a bad team, but they played an FCS team at home, and they beat them.
Yep.
Convincingly.
Yep.
Plain and simple, say yay. Number 9, the North Texas Mean Green.
Yep.
I don't know if necessarily this was unexpected. They lose to Louisiana Tech 45 to 24.
Game late.
It was a game
35-28, I think, in the third or fourth quarter.
It was, and they added a touchdown late to really pull away.
Yeah.
They got beat through the air by Ryan Higgins, but they do that to everybody.
Frankly, they put up a fight that I wasn't expecting. It's hard to get mad.
Frankly, I thought they overachieved in this one.
I think they acquitted themselves well against a team that could win the conference.
I think Mason Fine continues to show flashes of what he can be.
For a true freshman, it's crazy.
I thought Jeffrey Wilson had a decent game. It wasn't great. We just know they don't have defense. We know they don't have any defense, and they're going up against a good offense.
Although to be fair, again, we've said before, the defense has been a lot better than we thought it would be.
Totally.
But against teams like this, they just don't quite have an answer.
North Texas is not as good as Louisiana Tech. Right. They're not in the same place as a program right now, and so it's hard to get really mad about them getting beat.
But it's encouraging because this is closer than they should be at this point.
I totally agree. This game was 31-21 at halftime.
Yeah.
You can live with that.
Yeah.
You can live with that. Number 8, SMU.
Did not keep the momentum going.
Howdy. What happened to that? The momentum just evaporated.
It disappeared.
And, for all what's funny is that I hate to keep harping on the same things about these teams, but go back to that win over Houston. Like, everyone's talking about Ben Hicks, but what made that game go was the running game.
Yeah, same in Tulane.
Yeah.
So their big plays came in the running game.
They came in the running game. In this one, they only run for 100 yards.
Yeah.
And, you can't keep asking Ben Hicks to go out there and put on the cape for you because he's not going to do it. He was fine. He looked like a freshman.
Yeah.
Looked like a freshman. And Memphis just obliterated him. 51-7. The biggest issues here, to me, the passing defense was really bad. They gave up 314 yards and 4 touchdowns through the air. This game was over at halftime, where it was 38-7 at halftime.
It was a bludgeoning.
It really was.
And the flip side is, the other thing to keep in mind here, not just for them but for Houston as well, what Mike Norville's doing at Memphis offensively, it's going to be tough to beat every year.
It is. Yeah. And I again, is another thing where we expected SMU to take a step forward. I think it is fair to say that SMU has taken a step forward. That's fair?
Yeah, I think so.
But there's a difference between expecting someone to take a step forward and expect them to be a conference contender.
Sure.
This was a game for that a conference contender wins, or at least competes in. It's just clear that SMU's not there yet. And that's okay. They're just in different places as a program.
Yeah.
Number 7. The UTSA Roadrunners.
1 win away.
What?
1 win away.
What? UTSA goes to Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah, man.
And,
drop the hammer.
And doesn't just beat them.
Yeah.
Doesn't just, take care of them. They throttled them.
Yeah, man.
45-25, and honestly, it wasn't that close.
It was not that close.
The defense was incredible. If the defense forces takeaways, then this team is really pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they force takeaways, they pick off the Middle Tennessee passing attack 3 times. They forced another fumble. They were all over this quarterback, John Urzua.
Yeah.
And from there, here's a team that runs the ball.
Yeah.
Jalen Rhodes and Jarvion Williams go for nearly 200 yards combined and 4 touchdowns.
Yep.
Oh my gosh!
Do the least about Frank Wilson as a head coach coming this season of all the new coaches. So impressive what they've done
Absolutely.
so far.
And you start looking at their looking at the remainder of their schedule.
One more win.
One more win. Let's presume they're not going to Louisiana Tech and beating them. Let's just presume.
Okay.
And let's presume they're not going to A&M and beating them.
Probably not.
At home against Charlotte, end of the year.
Absolutely can do that. You can absolutely win that game.
I'll say this. Should.
Yeah.
Should.
Yeah.
This team should be bowl eligible now.
They will be favored in that game. Yeah.
Remarkable stuff from the Roadrunners.
Hell, I mean, at this
point. In a year where almost every team has underachieved, here is a bright, shining example of a squad that is overachieving.
Yeah.
They're playing better than their paper.
Yeah. But honestly, the way they're playing right now and the way Louisiana Tech's playing, I think they get a decent shot.
I think,
not a great shot, but you give them 25% shot to win that game.
They got a shot.
Yeah.
They're in it. I think beginning of the year, you would have gone,
oh come on, no way.
They're going to get drubbed. Yeah. You never
play
know.
their game.
This team is playing. Yeah. This team is playing better and maybe just coming around.
Pretty awesome.
Number 6, Texas Tech. Well, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
But at what point? I mean, I didn't think the defense was horrifying. It was bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't horrifying. I mean, Dante Foreman goes nuts for 304, but we saw that coming.
Yeah.
There is okay. At what point do we start to worry about the offense a little bit? This is 2 straight weeks that the offense has kind of been not. I mean, it's kind of things. It's kind of crazy that they put up 337 points,
and we're worried,
and almost 500 yards of total offense, and we're worried.
Right. Well, I mean, it's down to Mahomes being superhuman, and there's 2 factors there: injuries. He's been banged up, and I think it's just getting worse each game. Because weirdly, the offensive line has not been able to protect him that well.
No.
I mean, they just come running after because there's not really a running game.
No, there's no.
You know that the thing is,
DeLeon Ward does go for 93 yards, but
right, but it's not the same. I mean, DeLeon Ward has been a revelation in the last 3 games.
But
whereas when we talked to Coach Kingsbury over the summer, he sat there and told you, I think Justin Stockton's going to be the guy. And the running game with Justin Stockton just has not been there.
2 carries.
Yeah,
2 carries.
DeLeon Ward, though, that's been fun. And I saw that coming because he was awesome at Skyline.
Spencer Hall of Every Day Should Be Saturday. I don't know if you saw this tweet.
I did not
he brought up a great point. He goes, it is now to the point, and he was being deadly serious, I think.
Yeah.
It is now to the point where there is no reason they should an onside kick every time. They should cut their punter. Your defense is so bad that why are you trying to play traditional football?
Right.
And I think there's some logic in it that the defense is so bad, so why would you even put them on the field?
Right.
It's a thought. But in any case,
your offense does need a breather, I suppose.
Tech drops to 4 and 5, and if you're trying to count to 6 here, it now gets more difficult. They've still got Iowa State, they've still got Baylor, a Baylor team that we'll get to in a moment. But that's kind of, Tech's got a shot, but this was one you probably needed to have. Number 5, Baylor. I saw a lot of quit.
Yeah, I mean, or just like, I don't know, quit. They looked lost. They just did not look all there.
They looked.
I wouldn't say quit. I would just say that it did not seem like they were all there.
They came out flat.
Yeah, they looked distracted.
And we'll talk about TCU in a moment, but they came out flat. They had no response, and the play calling was so baffling. It was really amazing. And all of their big fears that we had, even before the Art Briles thing came along, all their big fears came to fruition. The front 7 just wasn't very good.
Right.
And they got blown off the ball by an average TCU offensive line. And that's very problematic. And it is now to the point where you said that Baylor's a good team on TexasFootball.com.
Yeah, you're challenging that.
I think they are, but at the same time, they've got one win of note.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, they're now going to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And there is very real tailspin possibility here. That this thing may just collapse.
Right.
Because especially with everything going on off the field, this thing may just collapse.
Right.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, but I mean, don't get carried away with the idea of good football team being great football team. I think they could finish with 7 wins. That's a good football team.
I think that'd be a fine year considering. And in fact, that's what we predicted in Texas and Dave Campbell's Texas football. Number 4, the Texas Longhorns.
Resurgent Texas
Longhorns. I still don't think the defense is very good.
No.
But I will tell you that Dante Foreman is working himself onto the periphery of a Heisman candidacy. That he has been so remarkable, 341 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he's just been incredible. The offensive line is playing really well too. It's playing really well, especially in run blocking, pass protection, but run blocking's been great. It's to the point now where I think we know what they are. They're a pretty good offensive team with a terrific running back and a pretty bad defensive team.
Yeah.
And when that matches up well with the other team, they're going to have a great shot. And that matched up very well against Tech. Now they go and who do they draw this week? I have this. Texas is are they? No, they're home to West Virginia. Honestly, probably a loss. But you know what? Things are at least trending upward, and all the talk about Charlie Strong being on the hot seat has kind of died down.
You know what? If you're going to get West Virginia right now, you better get them at home. So
sure. Number 3, TCU. I wanted to be very careful about how I talked about the TCU-Baylor game because on one hand, I think Baylor absolutely laid an egg.
Right.
On the other hand, this was a masterclass in game planning for TCU. They had everything working. Yeah. And for all the knocks that we've had on TCU all year, they finally put together
complete game.
4 quarters. Yeah. And we now see now, almost honestly, this is kind of frustrating because we've seen what they're capable of. We know this talent's there.
Yeah, and with a lead, buried them. Just foot on the throat, kept it there.
How many teams have we talked about this year that let teams creep back in?
Yeah.
Right? TCU had no problems with that. They kept pushing. And they got a pick 6 early, in the second quarter, and I looked around and I go, that's church. Yeah. That's it. They have put the foot on the throat of Baylor. Really impressive win for TCU. And maybe this wakes them up, and they go, guys, we can do this every week. Why not?
Texas TCU is looking like it could be pretty entertaining down the road now.
Mm-hmm. Number 2, the Houston Cougars. Enjoyed the week off.
Probably needed it.
Needs to get healthy.
Needed to have some film time, all of it.
They took the week off. And number 1, still number 1, kind of by default, is the Texas A&M.
Kind of an indictment on the entire state. Look, the resume is still really good.
The resume is still really good.
It's just a bad loss. It's a really bad loss.
That's a really stinky loss. Yeah. That's not a good team. It's a team that honestly was on the ropes that you could have delivered a knockout blow and maybe gotten Dan Mullen fired.
Right.
But instead, they have no. What's so weird is that they were a pretty good team against the run. Not great.
Yeah.
Not great, but pretty good. And for some reason, they just had. It was like they had never seen the zone read before.
Yeah,
and I'm watching this game. And I'm thinking, if Mississippi State throws another pass, Dan Mullen needs to be fired tomorrow.
Right.
Because Nick Fitzgerald
I saw your tweet about that, and they really didn't.
And here's the thing: is that A&M's pretty lucky that they didn't lose by more. They had 2 great interceptions in the end zone that saved 14 points right there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're talking about 49-28. That's very. But instead here's here's the Mississippi State team that averages 6.3 yards per carry, and this was 8 yards a carry in the first half. I mean. Yeah. They just had. It was like they'd never seen the zone read before. I didn't think. Obviously, look, when Trevor Knight goes out, that doesn't help. But he was 5 of 14.
Yeah.
I mean, he was bad. And Jake Hubenak, you can do worse for a backup.
For sure.
Jake Hubenek's a solid backup.
Yeah.
The biggest issue for me was that they never got the running game going, and I feel like I've said that 100 times now, but they didn't get the running game going. And aside from one long run from Trevor Knight.
Well, the running game this year has been Trevor Knight.
It has been.
In the games where they need to establish a running game, he finds those holes
Christian
himself.
Kirk's still one of the best players in the country.
Yeah.
And he had that big punt return.
Why kick it to him, by the way? That was pretty stupid.
Oh, my God. That's the most baffling. Anyway. But that's my college football power poll. Number 12, Rice. Number 11, Texas State. Number 10, UTEP. Number 9, North Texas. Number 8, SMU. Number 7, UTSA. Number 6, Texas Tech. Number 5, Baylor. Number 4, Texas. Number 3, TCU. Number 2, Houston. And number 1, Texas A&M.